This time it's Engine Masters meets Roadkill because we've got the Rotson's Turbo 5-liter Ford, and we're gonna find out how good that Power Stroke diesel turbo really is. Welcome back to West Tech Performance in Mira Loma, California for another episode of Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL. Now today, we're gonna be taking a junkyard Power Stroke diesel turbo and using it to boost a bone stock 5-liter Ford Mustang engine. If you're aware of our Roadkill show that I do with Mike Finnegan, you know that we've got this 71 Datsun 240Z that's called the Rotson. And in a recent episode, we installed this motor and the turbo in that car. We took this out of a 1987 Mustang. This engine is very similar to what you would find in the junkyard from any of those Mustangs from 1985 to mid-1992. That's when they had factory roller cams and they had forged pistons in them. The compression ratio varied just a tiny bit year to year. This being an 87, it's 9.1 to 1, and I'm really hoping that the ring end gaps are worn out enough that they don't butt together and give us a problem once we put the turbo on this thing, because honestly, we didn't even hose this off. It is bone stock from the valve covers down. All we got here is a Holley 750 carb that we're gonna baseline it with before we change it to turbo. We have a big Edelbrock Victor Jr. single plane intake manifold, just because that's gonna be way happier with the turbo program than if we put a dual plane on it, which would be more appropriate for this engine in its current configuration, because eventually we're gonna cram some boost through this thing. But first, we gotta hang it in there and find out what this pooch makes naturally aspirated. Normally when we're doing stupid things with boost, AMSOIL recommends that we run their 60 weight oil. This time though, I'm really concerned that thick oil and heavy oil pressure is gonna break the distributor shaft in this Ford. It can happen. So I'm gonna run the Dominator oil, which is a 1030 instead of the 60. Dominator, again, has got that really good film strength so that you don't bounce a bearing directly off the crankshaft while we're boosting this thing. I think it's gonna be okay. Now, let me show you the only proven method to prevent me from spilling oil all over the engine. Better do it the right way. These blocks are famous for literally splitting in half at 500 horsepower. Those 5-liter 302 blocks, not small block Fords in general, but these in particular, literally.
They go right from the main cap into the cam tunnel, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's gonna run right immediately.
Did this thing vibrate in the car?
Is it shaking?
No, I'm asking that because I dug a pound of dirt out of the balancer.
Oh, really?
I looked and you couldn't see any bolts. It was just like smooth and centrifugal force and mud and water had just kind of made it like this nice smooth cup. Looked like pottery.
It evened out. Wow. That's how a fluid damper works. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've run these stock 5 liters a bunch and, you know, they make 260, 280. What?
No.
That was a definite snicker.
It was.
I want to know what that was.
That was ridicule.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I want to get to the root of that snicker.
Why?
You've seen these, so it's just like unfair. I don't even have.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
You've run these. If I've run them, you've run them.
But never with this much dirt and grease on them.
And never with like a Victor Jr. on it.
Any guesses?
265.
285.
279.
Price is right.
That's not bad.
So close, so close.
Yeah, you almost called it.
Almost.
That was way off.
Looks like we got 312.6 pound-feet of torque at 3,800 RPM and 277.9 horsepower at 5,400 RPM. So exactly what we expected. Look how nice that thing runs, though. I mean, the factory motors are actually engineered really good.
How many miles were on this thing when you yanked it out of the car?
All of them. I have no idea.
Really?
It's well over 100. I just look at it. It's got to have 130 or 40 or 50,000 on it. And I'm just judging that by the depth of grease and dirt.
Well, despite all the filth on the outside, I didn't see blow-by or smoke out of the exhaust.
Especially since we've driven it in the Rotson with that turbo on it.
A lot of kind of the classic car engine guys look for motors like this.
Oh,
They're covered in oil, because then they at least know it's not a rusty piece of junk.
Yeah, or hasn't been rebuilt or something.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that baseline. You ready to go put turbo on it?
That's what we're here for. That's what the fun's for.
Wow, is this a mess? That's because it's pure roadkill. We had all of this stuff on that 302 running and driving in the Rotson, and man, is it fast. That car weighs like 2,500 pounds. It is just killer. But we're about to find out exactly how much power it takes to make that thing so scary. Here's what we've got. This turbocharger is directly off of a Ford Power Stroke diesel. It's totally wrong for the application, but it makes power. We do have a Banks exhaust housing on it, and that was really to help us kill some lag when we had this thing on a 4.3 Chevy V6. And it helped a little bit, but it was still kind of a mess. However, on the 302, this thing has throttle response. It's really good, actually. This isn't just a dyno test. We've driven this in the real world, and it works. We had to change around our exhaust side. The hot side is a big hater pipe on the Rotson, but we had to modify this just for the dyno so that we weren't burning the ceiling. Then there's the key to making this whole thing really dirt cheap, which is the fact we were able to reuse the 5-liter Mustang exhaust manifolds, which look a lot like a shorty header, but with much worse bends in them. We were able to take this thing and flip it upside down to mount the turbo, as you'll see on the dyno. Now, normally on a small block Ford, you wouldn't be able to do that, because if you look carefully, you can see that the bolt pattern on the header is not perfectly centered in the tube. So if you had a good opening on the header, and if you had a really good cylinder head on it with a larger port, when you flipped it over, you would have a massive exhaust leak. But fortunately, all of this stuff in the stock program is small enough that you don't have a problem with it, and so it works out perfectly. We have a teal wastegate on it, which is really more valuable than all of the rest of this stuff combined, except for maybe the carburetor. Yep, we're running this thing in a blow-through configuration. This is a 650 CFM unit from QFT, which does make off-the-shelf blow-through intended carburetors. You can see we've got our hat over here, and we also have a blow-off valve. So the thing's pretty functional, except for the fact that it smokes bad. It burns so much oil through the turbo. I haven't even broken this to Brule yet, but he's gonna have oil spatter all over the room. But we mitigate that a little bit with this pump. Even with the drain going straight down on this turbo, it just doesn't evacuate the oil like it should, which is why it smokes so bad. But when we hook up this pump, it actively sucks the oil out of the turbo, and it helps a lot. Speaking of actively sucking, let's go bolt this stuff to that 302 and find out what happens. It didn't take long to get all this stuff hung on the engine. I mean, Finnegan and I had all of this in the car, so it went pretty quick even though it's super ugly. Let me tell you about this whole science experiment and how it works. First of all, you saw that we flipped the exhaust manifolds over, and so we've got the exhaust here, both sides, feeding into the exhaust housing on the turbocharger. So what happens is that the expanding gases of the heat of the exhaust spin the wheel inside the turbo. The exhaust that is then vented out of the turbo comes here through the pipe that in the car was sticking straight up. We have our oxygen sensor plugged into the pipe so that we can test our air-fuel ratio when we're running to make sure that it's safe. This oxygen sensor is a little close to the end of the pipe. If I was running in a car, I would worry about it backfeeding and giving some bogus readings, but at wide open throttle, it'll be fine. So, we're spinning the wheel inside the turbocharger, which in turn spins the impeller, which is sucking air through this hole and discharging it all the way through here to our carburetor hat. On our carburetor hat, we've got a blow-off valve, which is connected here to manifold vacuum, so that when the thing is idling, it'll bypass some air so that it idles more easily. Also, Just like a centrifugal supercharger that I described in a previous episode, the blow-off valve works so that when you're at wide open throttle at 0 vacuum and then let off the throttle and you've still got some boost happening, you don't back that boost up into the intake track. It actually just bypasses it. There is the hose that goes to the bypass valve, is also going to our data logger on the dyno so that we can look at what our manifold boost is. We have a secondary data channel that is going to the boost inside the hat so that we can look at the pressure drop from the hat to the manifold through the carburetor. We also have lines on the hat that are connected to a boost referenced fuel system, which is really important. Because we've got boost going into the carburetor fuel bowls, that means that if you have 7 pounds of fuel pressure going this way, 7 pounds of boost going that way, you have no fuel flow. So the boost referenced fuel regulators make sure that fuel pressure increases in conjunction with boost so that you continue flowing fuel through the carburetor. Up here, we have got our wastegate that we're gonna use to control our peak boost. Because if you go all the way back here, we have a little rudimentary organized leak that is in fact a boost controller. It adjusts how much manifold pressure is going on the backside of the diaphragm in the wastegate so that we can adjust how that spring works so that we control how much total boost is gonna make it into the engine. It also has a top port in it. You can run a sophisticated boost controller that goes on both sides of this that can control both sides of the diaphragm and really keep a nice boost curve. This one is once again as sketchy as the rest of the program, but you know what? It is gonna work wicked. Watch this.
I'm kind of frightened by the high torque.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Steve and I were not liking that ugly looking dyno curve though, so we're considering just
parking it.
Parking it?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Perfection. There we go.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
It won't break.
And let's look at the
Look at
graph.
the torque though.
Oh, the torque is brutal. Wow. We made 617.8 pound-feet of torque, more than 2 pound-feet per cubic inch, and 550.8 horsepower.
Wow.
But that's not the whole story. Pull up the naturally aspirated curve. This is with no turbo. This is with turbo. I have to do the math. How much did we gain here? We essentially gained 305 pound-feet of torque.
That's a little bit.
And we picked up 270 horsepower, nearly doubled the horsepower, which actually the math works. We're making 15 pounds of boost. That's 1 atmosphere, and it almost doubled the horsepower.
Turbo's the most efficient forced induction there is.
Absolutely.
It's cool.
It's cool.
And it held
The
together.
302 beat us.
I know, and you were so dying to see it splatter.
I started growing a fondness for it.
You got attached to it this time.
I did, I got attached.
I know. It's pretty cool though, especially considering the hack job that we did putting it together.
See, if it just would have fallen apart like all the rumors, it would have been like, yeah, okay, that's what we expected from a piece of junk. But no, it just stood in there and it fought it. You know, it just said, no, I'm not giving up, and it just made more and more and more power. God, what fun.
I know. That was great. You know what the most amazing thing about this actually is?
I'm waiting for you to tell me.
This motor came out of the Roadkill Rotson and it failed to fail. Normally the Rotson breaks everything all of the time, but this thing did good.
I know, for a total turkey of a 5-liter Ford, that made it great.
It was magic. You know, often in our conclusions, I like to go through sort of my takeaway because I'm always thinking about it, often like a magazine editor. You know, when you do a dyno test and you have to go home and write the story and you're like, you know, what's really like the deep inner meaning of this? And the thing is, this is junk parts, but I think this is a combination anyone can do that's actually advisable.
Yeah.
You know, it's that the Power Stroke diesel turbo, you can get them. You can get them from rebuilders. It's a good deal. Banks, easy. Mail order the exhaust housing. These Mustang engines are still available everywhere, or you can get a rebuilt one. It's not that big of a deal. Just forged piston short block. It's really very practical.
Plus, I want to say, you do not have to take this thing all the way to 16 or 18 pounds of boost.
No.
I mean, even on 10 or 12 or 8,
It would be a riot.
Plenty of power.
And live forever at that power level. Or you can throw 118 fuel in it and take it to the track. And, you know, I don't feel like this thing is just about to barf its guts all over the ground. There's that whole the block breaks in half deal, but so far this has survived. But I think the once again the takeaway is pull a few pounds out of the thing, don't make that much power, and just have a blast for dirt cheap money. Anyone can do it.
It looks super fun.
I know it.
Man, you guys are gonna have a ball when you get this back in the car.
We need to do a real turbo next time.
Yeah.
Like actual good precision turbo on like a 572 big block Chevy.
I'm game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're boost guys now. And will be for now and forevermore on Engine Masters, which is presented by AMSOIL and supported by our friends at Mr. Gasket and Earl's Vapor Guard Hose.
So did you think I was gonna get the Flowbee haircut?
Dulcich, it was like the ultimate Flowbee. Your hair was getting pulled into the turbo.
You were afraid also we can watch your head get sucked up.
I know, and it start boring a hole through your brain.
Oh no.
Watch Put Up or Shut Up, the newest show coming exclusively to Motor Trend On Demand, July 20th, hosted by me, Brian Lowe's.
You've got a small block Chevy in your car and you need more power on a budget, and that's what you're gonna find out about on this episode of Engine Masters. This is Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL, and man, am I gonna get a lot of flack for this episode because yes, it's another small block Chevy, and this is gonna be real basic. But here's my defense. I meet with a lot of aftermarket manufacturers and I ask them, what's your biggest selling part number? And invariably, it is some tchotchke for a small block Chevy. LS engines may be super hot, Fords and Mopars may be cool, but the fact remains that the small block Chevy still outsells everything else in the muscle car marketplace. And we still get questions from people going, man, I just want to hop up the 350 in my truck or whatever. This engine is based on the architecture founded in 1955, and they made these things all the way through 2003 in some vans, and Chevy still sells them as crate engines. The 350, which is what this is, started in 1969. There's a zillion of them. Now let's look at the absolute basic package that we're going to be running on this show. The engine is a crate motor from a place called First Mate Automotive. I bought it from Summit Racing for $1,399. I mean, it is basic. Cast pistons, cast crank, minuscule flat tappet camshaft, nothing trick. But for that price, you get everything from the long block, including a camshaft, front cover, oil pan, valve covers, but not the accessories. Let me show you how I package this thing out. Up top, Holley's most affordable and basic carburetor. This is an aluminum version of the 1850, which is a 600 CFM vacuum secondary single feed carburetor. Our intake manifold is a basic low-rise dual plane from Speedmaster. That's $152. The ignition system is an HEI, which GM came out with in, I think, 1974. It means high energy ignition. It has a coil and a module in the trigger and everything right there. That's your whole ignition system, $136. The Excel 4000 series wires are about $40. These are Flowtech 1 5/8 inch headers for an early Chevelle, $152. So we're talking pretty cheap, pretty basic, and watch this, because it is gonna make power like you've never seen. Really. So we started at 2200. My torque number is way wrong.
Whoa! What a dog!
It's a dog, and it made a lot more torque than I thought. Call up the numbers, what was that? You know what, it just sounds lame, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, So our torque is 334.9 at 3,200 RPM. I guessed it was going to peak at 2,800 RPM. And our horsepower is 235.7 at 4,100 RPM. We're going to find out what happens when we add a point of compression, a better cylinder head, and 35 degrees more cam time.
35 degrees?
Well, yeah, we're going to that 230 Magnum, and this is a 194 at 50 cam. We're putting 36 degrees
We
intake
might be able to
duration
make
in
1
it.
horsepower per cubic inch.
I think we're going to make it better than that.
More than 1 horsepower per cubic inch?
Yeah.
You think we're going to pick up 100 horsepower?
With a good head in the cam, I mean, shouldn't this thing make 350 horsepower?
We'll have to do another bit sheet.
Yeah. I don't know. You ready to wrench?
Sure.
Dude, that was bleak. Can you imagine stabbing a brand new 350 Chevy into your car and then telling your friends that you got less than 240 horsepower? Awkward. I hope we're gonna fix that right now though. Here are the key problems with that engine. First of all, minuscule camshaft, almost non-existent, 194 degrees of duration at 50 thousandths lift, less than 400 thousandths lift on that turd. We're gonna solve that with a Comp Cams 280 Magnum, which is 230 degrees of duration at 50, and it has 480 thousandths lift. It's a flat tappet just like the other one. It's fairly affordable. It's $195 if you want to get the cam and lifter package. So depending on what you need, you can decide which kit you're gonna buy there. Next up, we gotta look at the cylinder heads. Now these things appear almost identical, but there are big differences. On my left here, I've got the swirl port head that came off of our crate engine. This was used in 91 and earlier Chevy trucks, and basically it's a complete turd. Even though it looks like a Vortec head because it has those center bolt valve covers and stuff, it's not. This is a Vortec head. These were used on 350 Chevys with the L31 designation from 1996 to the year 2000. They were only in trucks and SUVs. And the thing is, you can still pick them up in junkyards. That's the great thing about them. There are some drawbacks though. The biggie is that they won't handle a lot of valve lift without machining because the bottom of the retainer hits the top of the valve guide. You can only put about 450 thousandths lift in them before you run into a problem. They also have press-in rocker studs, just like this swirl port head, and you get a lot of valve spring pressure on them, those tend to pop out, so you want to modify them to have a screw-in stud, just like this one has been modified. The other thing is you'll often find in the aftermarket heads that they'll put bigger valves in them. Blueprint Engines actually did this set of Vortex for us, and they've got a 2.02 inch intake valve instead of the stock 194. The really big deal here though is that the intake port on the Vortec is so much superior than it is on the swirl port. It's ridiculous. And if you look at the chamber, this is your standard smog era garbage bathtub of a combustion chamber. Whereas here on the Vortec, you've got a much nicer heart-shaped chamber, more of a modern design, and this is 64 cc's instead of 76. That means that we're gonna take our crate engine from 8.25 to 1 with the swirl port head to 9.2 to 1 with the Vortec head, and that is gonna be a really big deal. Next up, you're gonna have to consider your intake manifold if you're changing from a swirl port head or an older one to a Vortec head. Now this is a Speedmaster intake manifold. It is designed to run both the TPI pattern or the classic old school pattern that you'd find in like a 69 Camaro or 74 Monte Carlo. The old school pattern, all of the bolts go in at the same angle. The TPI pattern on this swirl port head is different in the middle, just like it would be on like an 87 TPI Camaro. The Speedmaster intake has adapters to do both, but it won't fit a Vortec head because the Vortec head intake has bolts that go straight up and down, and they also take a different intake gasket for that reason. Now this intake manifold for the classic setup is about 152 bucks. This one for the Vortex, almost 170. So you do need to keep that in mind if you're being budget conscious. Speaking of which, if you don't want to scrounge the junkyards for your Vortec heads, I like a place called Scoggin Dickey. It's a Chevy dealership and they offer a package of brand new heads with all of these upgrades on them. They're 890 bucks, but you can do it much cheaper if you scrounge on your own. And when you do, you're gonna make a whole bunch more power, or at least that's the theory, and we're gonna go find out if it's true right now. out with the world's smallest camshaft. I got this comp cam's what they call a K kit, which comes with the cam, lifters, timing chains, valve seals, and springs and retainers. Everything that you need. Just guide that cam in, and boom, no fancy installation tool required. Dots are lined up, simple as it gets. No degreeing of the camshaft here. These 3 bolts here on the end of the cam, sometimes you'll see a locking plate on them, which is a really good idea. In this case, I would brake clean them and get rid of all the oil and use Loctite on them. Really don't want these backing out. All right, we just slapped the cam in, and as usual with a flat tappet, you have to break in the cam with a special oil. AMSOIL makes that break in oil. Once that's been run through the engine, this time, we're using an oil you've never seen on Engine Masters, the OE line from AMSOIL. It's a 1030. This is an affordable synthetic oil. It's about $5 a quart, and that's why they thought it would be the perfect thing for our low-buck little small block Chevy here. But first up, you gotta make sure that this cam doesn't go bad. So much easier with no valve cover, right? Winning.
Okay, we're gonna pause our installation just a second for gasket maker science. Here's why. We have a new sponsor on Engine Masters, and it's Permatex, which is totally cool because we use this stuff all the time, and it's like, you know, a major part of every gearhead lifestyle. I'm gonna give you a tip about what you just saw about us slapping the intake manifold on that small block Chevy. See, at the end of the intake manifold where it seals to the block, there's what we call a China wall, and the intake manifold comes down here and there's a gap. Now normally, a gasket kit comes with a piece of cork that goes in there. But the problem is, with all this aftermarket stuff we deal with, the cork is usually either too thick or too thin. So we throw that away, and instead we use RTV. Our norm is to use the Permatex Ultra Gray, but they've got this new product that we're trying out. It's called the Optimum Gray, and it's actually an improvement on that Ultra Gray product. It can handle more heat, they say up to 700 degrees, and it's more vibration resistant. I have noticed that it doesn't have the same viscosity as the Ultra Gray. It's a little bit like thinner, and you'll see here that we will just go ahead and lay a bead that we will eyeball at about the height of the gap in the intake manifold, and you can't go too extreme here, but what I'm doing is about right. And it's funny because we always have a competition to see who can do this most neatly, and I think I am winning right now. You always got to make sure to get this stuff tucked under the gasket at the end there, and that thing is not going to leak. So thanks Permatex, our new sponsor on Engine Masters.
Intake manifold, I pre-fit it, so I'm pretty sure this is going to work. And goop.
Ooh, perfect squish.
Perfection. Here's the difference between a vacuum secondary and a double pumper carburetor. See this vacuum pod right here? It senses airspeed through the venturi up here, which creates a pressure drop, which opens up the secondaries. On this thing, it's all mechanical. And this thing, the 1850 carburetor, only has a primary accelerator pump discharge nozzle, which we also call a squirter, whereas a double pumper pumps twice. It has one in the front and one in the back. Way more better. So now, once again, Brulé has been through the tuning process. He knows the answer. I have my numbers written down, but let's wait until we actually pull it to see who's right. You got yours right there?
I never get to play because I always have to tune it first.
I know. Not always, only sometimes.
Yeah.
So to review, different carburetor, the same CFM, slightly different intake manifold, essentially the same. Better cylinder head, much more camshaft, one more point of compression.
And both were stock heads too.
Yeah.
You know, production OEM iron
OEM
heads.
heads.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we pick up.
All right, you guys ready? That's a lot of improvement.
That's a lot of improvement. That's totally worth it.
That's way over 100 horsepower.
Let's see what it did. Wow! We just made 397 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM and 364.9 horsepower at 5,500? We made 130 horsepower.
Look like heroes, huh?
100 and it's like a 50% gain. Almost 40% gain.
Wow.
But see, if we had something that
Crazy.
made 1 horsepower and turned it into 2, it'd be 100% gain. So
Yeah.
we had some room to grow.
And 62 pound-feet. Let's see the overlay before
That's like
and after.
a whole different engine now.
Wow. Obviously, these lines way down here are our baseline with the original heads and everything on it. And up here is everything we just did. There is no way to overstate the difference this feels like in the car. It's ridiculous.
It's 125 shot of nitrous.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. Okay, are you ready for this?
Are you?
Yes.
The envelope, please.
Yep.
Don't pull out the wrong envelope.
Let's hear yours first.
Academy Award style. 385 torque at 4,200. So I was 10 foot-pounds off and 100 RPM off.
Okay.
That's good.
What about you?
For torque?
Yeah.
402 at 3,900.
Ooh. You were closer than me.
Yep.
At what RPM?
I called 3,900 and it did it at 4,000.
So you're 100 off.
Yeah, so I was 100 off.
You got
And
me. 375 at 5,600.
365 at 5,500.
Why do we need a dyno? Why?
That was dead nuts. Nice job there, Freiberger.
Should I tell him?
Oh, no, you didn't. You cheated? Oh, you got me again.
That you were close. But you know what though? You didn't know the torque.
No, I didn't know the
And
torque.
that was
I
a
guessed
good
the
shot.
torque.
That was a good shot on the torque within
Yeah.
just a couple of pound-feet. So excellent
He
job.
told me the power number. He said
Oh, really?
360,
Oh,
and then
man.
I went from there.
Ah, dude.
But still,
So you back
amazing.
calculated?
Way good.
And you know what? That's not really an expensive thing to do.
Well, I did all the math on that. I'll tell you exact numbers on how much that all cost when we do our wrap-up.
Okay. I'll
Ready?
be all ears. Let's
Go. So here's the cha-ching on the whole deal.
go. Okay, let's hear it.
So I added up every dime it cost to duplicate this. I mean, gaskets, everything, with the exception of the electric water pump, the two-piece front cover, and the water neck. I mean,
Okay.
everything. So step one that made 237 whopping horsepower,
Weakling.
$2,250.
Pretty cheap though for all new.
It is. This though, and the 365 horsepower configuration, $3,550. It's a difference of $1,300.
You know, for the power gain,
Totally worth
I
it.
don't think there's any way you can get it cheaper than that.
The thing is, I know a lot of people are going to look at those numbers and go, I could put a turbo LS in my car for that. And you know what? With scrounging, you probably could. But what do you think you could put this together with? What are you spending?
Find the heads in classifieds or machine shops or even a wrecking yard. You could get all this stuff a lot cheaper than, you know, your retail price. So,
Yeah, I bet you we could make this happen for $1,800, something
Oh, yeah.
like that. And
Probably.
that was really my point, to show people if you've got like your 82 Chevy truck driving around, this is the type of package you can look for. And it's the cheapest way I think you're gonna get 350, 360 horsepower.
practically any small block Chevy 350 can take these parts, even an old one.
Like you told me, you can never go wrong with the 350 Chevy.
I like it
Yeah.
now.
Now it
Yeah.
was a turn before.
I didn't like it
But
before.
now it's good.
Yeah.
But wait till you see what we do with this thing next. It's actually going to be really good. I'll just give you a hint. Boost.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
See you next time on Engine Masters, presented by AMSOIL and supported by Mr. Gasket and Earl's Vapor Guard Plumbing.
So what do they call a polylock?
Because it has more than one part, it's two parts. Poly means more than one. It's from ancient Greek.
This time on Engine Masters, we're gonna show you how to build a cheap street turbo LS the right way. Although chances are solid, you're not gonna agree. Watch and find out.
This is Engine Masters, brought to you by AMSOIL, and I have to begin this episode by telling you what it's not. This is not one of those deals where a guy pulls a GM LS engine out of a junkyard, hangs a turbo on it, boosts its brains out, and makes 1,000 horsepower. I realize that is super common and super popular these days. As a matter of fact, way back in like 2010 or 2011 when I was the editor of Hot Rod magazine, I had Richard Holdner do a story called Big Bang Theory. Pull a 4.8 liter LS engine out of the yard and boost its brains out and make 1,200 horsepower before it's scattered. And as a matter of fact, it was his knowledge that helped me put together this whole engine package. So now I should tell you about what this episode actually is. My idea was to take a guy who wants to get on the Turbo LS bandwagon and show him how to put together a package that's really simple, doesn't cost a whole lot of money, and most of all, that is completely reliable on pump gas for anything that you could drive every single day. This isn't for a drag racer. This is more for somebody who just wants that daily reliability while making pretty huge power, but not 1,000. So in order to keep the budget down, let me tell you about what here is stock. This is a 5.3 liter GM LS engine, kind of like what you would find in a truck. It's got stock heads, stock block, stock crank, stock 78 millimeter throttle body. The intake manifold is a Dorman reproduction of a stock LS6 intake, and the main reason why I changed that is the truck intake is just so ugly. And this thing is $500 at Summit Racing. You can get something cheaper than that, but I thought this was a really good option. So that's what's stock here, and that's where you're gonna save a lot of money. But now let me talk to you about what we did modify about this engine in the name of performance and reliability. I talked to Holdner about what usually breaks on these engines when he boosts them to the moon. What he's found is that the connecting rod is typically the failure point on these engines. The crankshaft seems to live forever, but he's breaking rods right in the middle here and then just shatter the entire engine as the broken connecting rod saws the whole block in half. So that's what can be really ugly. And for reliability, I am using this new product called a Boost Line rod. Google it, Boost Line. These things are intended specifically for power adder applications with a ton of beam strength. It's a 4340 forged rod, and it's got a new and patent pending design, which you can see it's kind of unusual here. It's kind of a cross between an H-beam and an I-beam, and they say that it's got 60% more bending resistance in the beam than other aftermarket rods. And you know what? These are way more affordable than the stuff I normally buy when I'm trying to make massive horsepower. And they say this thing will survive up to 2,000 horsepower. You can order an extra rod bolt upgrade on these, but we use the base ARP 2000 bolts in this application. I think it's gonna be way more rod than we need for what we're doing here. But really, this thing will let you grow. If you want to get beyond what you're going to see in this episode and you want to make huge horsepower, that thing will survive. The other thing that I did to the bottom end is upgraded pistons. This is a 2318 forging from Wiseco. It's an off-the-shelf piston that you can get for these LS turbo applications. I don't think it'll go to 2,000 horsepower, maybe 1,000, 1,500, but it's as trick as you need for what we're doing here. It has this new armor glide coating on the skirts, just scuff resistance there. What's probably more important up here is the armor plating, which is very hard to see on camera, but it's a proprietary coating that they say will prevent corrosion and has some detonation resistance to it. Definitely you don't want to be detonating with your turbo, but this gives you that added measure of protection. And the other thing about it is you can get it with lateral gas ports, and just to save a few bucks, we did not opt for that. But that is our super beefy piston. Both a piston and a rod are gonna let you grow your LS motor into big power if you ever want to. Now, speaking of big power, here's the performance upgrades that we made on this thing. First of all, a Brian Tooley Stage 2 camshaft, a very common stick for guys doing this turbo LS deal. Naturally aspirated trim, it made about 415 horsepower on this thing with a carbureted intake manifold, but that's not really important. You'll see how well it works with the turbocharger. Now, the turbo itself we got from Little John Motorsports. You can call them and they'll advise you exactly what you need for your application, because if this is your first time, you're gonna need help deciding what size you need for your turbo. This one is a Borg Warner S485. It's got an 80 millimeter billet compressor wheel. On the exhaust side, we're looking at a 92mm turbine. We changed the housing to a T4 flange just because that's what we had the exhaust flanged for. It's got an AR of 1.25 to 1. I'll show you later in the show sort of a more budget option that you could do, but the thing about this turbo is it's gonna work great here, and once again, if you decide to step this thing way up, that turbo has got the reserve to make 1,000 or 1,200, no issues whatsoever. Now, the last thing that I did for a mod, which is really another key to simplicity, reliability, and on-the-street performance, is the Hooker cast iron exhaust manifolds. These things are designed specifically for turbo applications with all the flanges that you need. The thing that makes them better than a tubular exhaust is that they're much more quiet, they're not gonna crack, and they're gonna fit your chassis because they are tight. Honestly, they're gonna be a little bit of a power restriction. They're gonna make more back pressure than a tubular header design, but I think the compromise is worth it for something that you're gonna drive a lot, especially if you're not looking to just shoot for that 1,000 horsepower number. So that's sort of the program that we got going on here. Now we're gonna roll it in the dyno, of course sauce it up with some AMSOIL, also for reliability. And in the tuning process, what we're gonna do is turn up the boost to the point where we're very confident it will run on 91 octane pump fuel. My priority is making this run on pump gas, and whatever that boost level is however much horsepower it's gonna make. Let's go find out. You know, we've been known to be irresponsible with boost on some nasty old engines, and AMSOIL has recommended the gnarly 60 weight Dominator racing oil in the past. But this LS engine is all fresh and good, tighter clearances and stuff like that. I'm still gonna use the Dominator because it's got that really strong film strength for impact loading, making, you know, big power under boost, but this one is a 1030 for the more modern and fresh engine. This thing's actually a used engine, but recently rebuilt with new beefy rods and pistons and stuff. My main goal with this episode is actually to convince him that boost is good.
I like boost. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you won't have it in your own life.
I've had centrifugals, but I really must confess I've never done a turbo engine.
Okay. Then I have to convince you that turbos are good.
I'm ready for convincing.
What we're gonna find out right now is how good boost is and how bad no intercooler is.
They're quiet with turbos, that's one thing for sure.
Well, let's hear it. Crank that baby up.
We've got this thing all tuned up, so here's our first pull with no intercooler. All right, what we just saw in our first pull there with no intercooler at all is impressive. 664 horsepower at 6,500, 573 pound-feet of torque at 5,300, and we saw 11.7 PSI all the way up at the top. But did you see the air inlet temperature?
Oh yeah, it was hideously hot.
Yeah, exactly. I think 67 degrees in the dyno cell and 190 plus going into the engine out of the turbo.
It's horrible.
You've seen what goes wrong with that, haven't you?
Yes, unfortunately, I've seen the smoke come out, and we actually had an engine with an intercooler. Intercooler started leaking, we turned it off. Next pull, the smoke's coming out.
On 91 octane?
On 91 octane, with just simply detonation.
So what does that train you where the actual limit is? I mean, I see guys drive around with no intercooler at 10 PSI in that area all the time. How come they're not having issues?
I don't know that there's a definitive number because I think that obviously a turbocharger applies boost differently than maybe a roots blower does. I'm not willing to run one here with these kind of torque numbers on 91.
Yeah, well, anytime you're compressing air, you're creating heat. So more boost, more heat, more danger of detonation.
Does it correlate to BMEP number at all?
Well, BMEP at our altitude anyway, because this is an observed number, not corrected. So A lot of times what we would see in a normal 91 octane motor would be, let's say, normally aspirated in the 160s. We're in the 260s now. So there's a lot of potential for detonation, in my opinion.
And that's why we actually have Rocket Brand 118 octane race fuel in it right now, just because we knew this test was going to be risky. But right now, I guess we'll go throw the intercooler on there and see how much of a difference it makes.
Intercoolers are good.
It's going to be really good. Yeah.
It'll be better.
Let's throw it on there. Well, that was like the worst of both worlds. We made mediocre power, and you couldn't run it on pump gas because the air discharge temperature was so high, it was just gonna have a detonation problem and be a disaster. So our next step is an A/B test with an air-to-water intercooler, and I anticipate that once we cool down that discharge temperature, we're also gonna have to make a little adjustment to the air-fuel ratio, and then we'll find out how much power that makes. I've often run boost of like 8 to 12 pounds with a carburetor and no intercooler, and that's because a carburetor has fuel passing through it in a vaporized state that actually pulls heat out of the air and acts as an intercooler, and you can get away with it. Clearly with EFI, you don't have that situation, and so we're gonna see a good A/B test between hot discharge air and cool discharge air. Here's another thing. I recently discovered this filter from a company called Air Raid, and this is their full race turbo air filter that has no filter element at all. No gauze, no paper. This is just the metal screens, inner and outer. It's really only meant to keep out the huge rocks, but not reduce airflow, which then restricts boost, which then kills power. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it led me to want to try all their filters. So now we got to roll into the dyno cell, hang the intercooler, find out what power that makes, and then we're gonna run through all these filters and see if they make a difference. So what we're about to install here is an air-to-water intercooler. This thing's actually made by ProCharger, a centrifugal supercharger company. It has a little radiator in here, and there's water that cycles through it, and the air comes in here, goes through that radiator and gets chilled, and then gets discharged into the engine. In this case, we're just gonna run the water through the dyno, so it's just sort of like room temperature water. It can be way better when you run hardcore ice water through it in like a drag race application.
There you go. This one goes in here.
This one goes down here.
Pretty close there.
Okay, we are intercooled. We are heat exchanged.
That's what we needed.
We're gonna make more power with less boost.
I know. I hardly ever run boost though, I guess.
I know, you need to.
Yeah.
Okay, in theory, we're gonna see boost go down and power go up, right?
Yep.
And we're gonna be able to look at the temperature delta across
Yes.
the intercooler. That's gonna be cool.
How did that look?
I don't know. Let's find out what happened. Look at the data. Okay, that was pretty cool, literally. We made 698 horsepower at 6,600 RPM, not 700.
Oh.
Down here, the torque went up to 623 at 5,300 RPM. And if you compare the red line with no intercooler to the black line with the intercooler, you can see that that was a significant gain.
The intercooler is pretty good.
It's great.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at why that happened. First, can we look at our boost curves to see how that might have changed with and without the intercooler? There you go.
This is the boost curve. On the red line, that was the first run without the intercooler, and the pressure was a bit higher at 11.9 peak, and it dropped about a half a pound, but it's only a half a pound difference, and we saw almost, 40 horsepower gain with a half pound. So obviously the air going into the engine is much more dense.
Which is why it makes less boost. The cooler air is denser, which means the molecules are closer, so it's taking up less space in the intake manifold, so the boost is lower.
Yeah, that's sometimes a hard concept when you say the boost is lower, but it made more power. And it'll happen sometimes when the NA portion of the engine is more efficient, or it also happens when the air inlet charge is cooler.
I think everybody's looking at that and going, okay, but why would less boost make more power? So let's look at the temperature curve.
Yeah. So we'll look at that. And basically, this is with the intercooler. Since we had no intercooler the first time, basically we had
One discharge temp and that's it.
we had 192 degrees going in the engine.
Yeah.
So we dropped it, 90 degrees.
With no intercooler at all, it was 192 degrees straight out of the turbo, really hot. And then what we're seeing here is, on that last pull, we had 181 degrees coming out of the turbocharger. But then coming out of the intercooler, it was only 94. So that's a 100-degree drop.
That is a big drop.
That's significant.
There's a lot more to it than just power. I mean, detonation tolerance is a big factor when you drop inlet air temperature.
Also, we were able to burn more fuel. You went into the Holley EFI and ticked it up quite a bit. And it's the burning more fuel that makes more power, not the air.
That's exactly it. And somebody might look at this and say, well, how come the air out of the turbo is different in those two cases? Had we preloaded the turbo just a little bit prior to making that run, it would have gone up even another 10 degrees. So the longer you run that thing, the higher that temperature is going to get. As you can see, it's an ascending curve. And that's just in a few seconds. So think about running this thing for 30 seconds wide open or at Bonneville or something. I mean, it just keeps going up, and then that's when it starts to rattle and there's no turning back.
That's when the engine just hits the ground.
What's surprising to me also is it's not a constant delta as far as temperature drop with the intercooler. The slope is just about flat on the intercooled temperature graph.
Even though this continues to increase, this is at a more shallow slope.
It's increasing at a much slower rate. I mean, it's hardly increasing at all over the length of that run.
That's because it's joining the temperature of the water going through the heat exchanger, and that temperature is stable.
Intercoolers are cool.
Intercoolers are great. Okay, the next thing I want to do is super simple. I always see guys at Drag Week run around with no air filter on their turbo at all. And I know from experience at Wreck Stuff, the F-bomb turbos are garbage as a result of that.
Well, yeah, it'll crunch parts.
Yeah. I have 4 different air cleaners. Air Raid makes 4 different types of air filters. They make a actual drive it around every day and keep dirt out. Then they make a dry version of the same thing. Then they have a track day one, which filters fewer particles but flows more air. Then they have a race day one that has no element in it at all.
Just to stop the big rocks.
Right. I want to go throw on the most street-oriented filter and find out how much that turns the boost down, and then find out if we can recover it by bringing boost back up.
Okay.
So let's slap that filter on. Okay, so Air Raid makes this filter in both a 4-inch diameter and a 6-inch diameter opening right here. Unfortunately, our turbo here is 5, so we've got this 3D printed adapter that we're gonna slide on here, and then we're gonna put the filter on and find out if it is gonna reduce boost and kill power. Okay. So this is the oiled element filter.
All right, this is going to be great.
Okay, all we did is put an air filter on it. It's gonna restrict airflow, reduce boost, kill power, make it run rich.
If this is a high flow enough filter, then it won't. So it'll be interesting to see how much and if it restricts air.
Well, I mean, make a prediction here.
Oh wow, he's just going right there.
It's easy for the guy that's never seen a turbo to do. Challenge me.
Going right for the jugular.
No,
I don't think this thing's going to make any difference.
I think it's gonna kill a pound or 2.
Look, Steve-O, I'm certainly no turbo expert, so there was nothing personal there. I'm a carburetor big cam guy too.
I'm feeling a little tender after that.
Okay, so now we're gonna run it with the Air Raid oiled element filter on there. Wow, pretty good.
I was watching the air fuel pretty close. It didn't get a whole bunch richer, so I'm knowing that it had to be making decent power.
That filter flows a lot. I mean, what did it do? Same exact thing? Yeah, I mean, it lost 2 or 3 numbers or something like that and almost no boost at all. 0.2 pounds of boost. That's a good filter.
That is a good filter, not very restrictive at all.
Wow, I'm actually impressed with that filter. So that's the difference in this curve right here between the boost with and without the filter. And the difference is 0.2 PSI. We can go out there and turn a little knob on our little organized leak boost controller and solve that problem.
That's a really good filter.
Let's try the dry one. Maybe the dry one's more restrictive than the oiled one.
Yeah, we should try it. I mean, that would be interesting.
Let's try it. I'm gonna go put on the dry element. So now we're gonna try the dry gauze Air Raid filter. Any variance that we saw in that test came down to a few degrees of air temperature, a few degrees of water temperature. Insignificant. You want to go put the screen on?
Screen? Yeah.
So I think all we really learned is that none of those filters are a restriction for something at this power level and boost.
They were all pretty much equal.
Yeah. They'd be pretty cool though. I like that filter that has no element in it, just the screen for those guys who are making like 2,000 horsepower plus.
At least something to drive with. I mean, that just seems kind of crazy to me that they would run around with nothing.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big filter, too. I mean, a lot of guys put a much smaller filter on a turbo, and maybe that's where you're going to run into problems with restriction.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's why a lot of guys don't run filters. They think they're going to kill boost. But what do you think of the combo? Pretty simple, right?
It's simple but good.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's tiny. It's a 5.3.
I know, it's 325 cubic inches, 5.3 liters. I think a lot of people, though, are sitting there going, you didn't make 1,000 horsepower. What is wrong with you idiots?
And what do you think about the potential reliability of that power level with this engine?
Well, that was my whole plan for it. I think the cast manifolds don't crack or make noise. I think that those pistons and rods live absolutely forever at this power level. I think the MLS head gaskets just don't even care about this boost level and power level.
This is something you're still going to be driving with 700 horsepower 5 years from now.
Right, it's an everyday engine. It's cool.
I like the whoosh it makes, too.
The whoosh?
The whoosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go whoosh off the dyno.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing I learned in this episode is intercoolers are really, really good. I knew they were good. I didn't realize how good.
Right.
The other cool thing is none of those filters made a bit of difference at this boost and power level.
Just tells me they're all good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't run a motor without a filter of some sort anyway, because you'll just trash the motor and the turbo.
Oh, but you know what, Dulcich?
What?
I have 2 bits of breaking news for you.
Okay, I'm all ears. What have you got?
I know you haven't heard this stuff. So first of all, you know Little John Motorsports spec'd this for like way more power than we're making right here.
Yeah, okay.
So off camera, I was talking to Holdner. We're gonna step it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're talking about going tubular headers, some TFS heads, an Edelbrock ProFlow intake big throttle body, and 1,200 horsepower.
Wow. I'm really liking what I'm hearing.
Well, that's why I stepped it up hardcore with those Wiseco pistons and the boost line rods.
It's just too easy to make horsepower.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you just slap one of those round things on there and then boom, you're
It
a
just happens.
superhero.
Here's my second bit of breaking news.
Okay.
So I think we've established this turbo is really perfect for what we're doing here, but there are other options for people at this power level, and there's a new product for it. For those guys who don't want a Chinese turbo, which is like the standard, Precision Turbo. They have this new entry-level turbo just for guys doing stock 5.3s and 4.8s.
Oh, yeah?
It's their 7675 unit. It's $999, but it has a 12-month, 20,000-mile warranty. So that's the turbo, and they also came out with these new affordable blow-off valves and wastegates. It's a 46-millimeter wastegate, 64-millimeter blow-off valve. So they're basically jumping into the game of the guys who want to do the junkyard turbo thing, but at a higher level with, again, that reliability that I've been talking about.
Okay, so good stuff, but affordable, right?
Yeah, but the question is, do you think that I'm completely weak sauce with this combo only making 700, or do you kind of get where I'm going with this?
700 horsepower is a lot on the street in a real car.
Yeah.
1,200 is a lot more, though.
Although I will say one more thing, which is there's a lot of guys I'm seeing who are like, oh, it doesn't make 1,000 horsepower, you're lame. I think a lot of those guys, if you put them in a street car with 700 horsepower and 1,000, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference because it's just a matter of how much more wheel speed there is in the burnout.
I think I probably could.
Really? Okay. Well, I'll let you find out when we make this thing make like 1,200 horsepower, which I hope you'll see in a future episode of Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL. Let's try the dry one. Maybe the dry one's more restricted than the oiled one. Can I?
I want to try the screen one.
You can do anything you want, Dave.
Why do I feel like I'm being like, you know, patronized?
No, no.
I know you've read it, but is it true? Would you really blow up your engine if you ran nitrous oxide on a dual plane intake manifold? Well, we're gonna find out using the 383 out of the Roadkill crop duster, this time on Engine Masters.
wives' tales. For lack of a more gender-neutral term, that's the thing that I really love challenging here on Engine Masters, presented by AMSOIL, and here's the one that we're attacking this time. You've read it a bunch of times, I'm sure I've written it a bunch of times. It's been repeated so often. You can't run nitrous oxide in a dual-plane intake manifold or you'll blow up your engine. Why? People say that it's got a nasty cylinder-to-cylinder distribution problem and that's gonna cause a problem in at least one hole of your engine. Well, we're gonna find out right now, and here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna run both a dual-plane and a single-plane intake manifold on this big block Mopar, both naturally aspirated and with nitrous oxide, and we're gonna check that cylinder-to-cylinder distribution like this, with an oxygen sensor in every single header tube. So we're gonna know exactly what's happening in each cylinder. That's gonna give us answers like, is the dual plane really that dangerous? Does a single plane make more power on nitrous for the same nitrous jet than a dual plane? And we're also gonna answer questions about how much power this particular engine makes. Now here's what makes this engine cool. This is the 383 big block that is directly out of the Roadkill Crop Duster. You've probably seen that car. It's a white 1970 Duster that's been on both my Roadkill show and on also Roadkill Garage. And it's a pretty easy buildup that has run 1160s in the car. Here's sort of the combo. Bottom end, stock crank, stock rods. It's got forged pistons, 11.5-to-1 compression. These heads are straight out of the box Edelbrock units, no big deal. Up top, we're gonna start off with the Performer RPM intake manifold from Edelbrock. The camshaft is a comp cam solid flat tappet. The duration at 50 thousandths is 241, 247. Up top, we've got an 850 Brawler carburetor. We're running MSD ignition on this thing, and now we're gonna roll it into the dyno, put some AMSOIL in it, and fire it up for a baseline to find out what this thing makes before we start huffing some nitrous through it. The stock crank and rods in this thing are gonna need all the help that they can get, and so even though it's kind of a basic deal, I'm gonna go all the way with the Dominator racing oil. Whenever I run a power adder, AMSOIL always tells me to run this stuff because it has a really strong film strength. And even though we got a small nitrous kit here, I think nitrous is one of the most abusive things on bearings, more so than a turbo or a blower, because you hit the button and bam, power increase like that. It's not like a slow boost curve. So this Dominator hopefully is gonna keep it alive, plus it's got a lot of zinc for that flat tappet cam. Oh man, I gotta keep the oil out of the fins on these valve covers. Okay. Okay, we're ready for our baseline, which is the Crop Duster 383, pretty much straight out of the car with the exception of a different header and different carburetor. It even still has the alternator and the water pump and stuff on it. So Steve's got it tuned up, ready to fire it up, see what it does.
It's gonna be cool to watch 8 oxygen sensors.
Ooh, yeah, I forgot about that. Real time. Lighter?
Yeah.
Why?
We knocked about 2 pounds of dirt off of it.
Kind of a dog.
I didn't even look at the power numbers, I was looking at the Lambda.
It's shameful.
Is it?
Yeah, looking at 462.6 pound-feet at 4,400, and it made best horsepower of 459.6 at 5,800.
Wow.
I think there's a number of reasons for that. This header's much worse than what we ran
This
before.
is not a good header.
No, it's smaller tube, and this has a terrible collector on it. Plus, we have a mechanical water pump and alternator on it, and a different carburetor, and we're running 36 degrees of timing. This engine likes 40, but we wanted to do our nitrous testing A-B comparison with no other change other than the nitrous, and so we pulled a few degrees of timing out of it. But let's have a look at the whole curve. Yep, it's just down 40 horsepower from what we'd really like it to be.
I think the header's an accessory drive, carburetor, it all adds up.
Yeah.
So.
And the timing.
And
the
timing.
timing.
So it's not out of line entirely. You know what I noticed though, looking at the Lambdas, there was quite a bit of variation. I mean, some of those holes, there were 2 ratio points difference or more.
Cylinder to cylinder?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at that. I mean, he's got it pulled up here.
Yeah, when you start looking at like cylinder number 2 finishes up at 11.9, and then 4 is 13.7.
Yeah.
Almost 2 full ratios in cylinders that are paired one next to the other, 2 and 4.
Yeah, and that's just a matter of air and fuel getting through the intake manifold.
And I've noticed it was kind of leveling out as RPMs increased. At
As
lower
airspeed
RPM, there was more
increases,
spread.
It seems to kind of,
Yeah.
you see it here.
Oh!
See, this almost doesn't look too bad in scaling, but then you see this.
Yeah.
That's pretty frightening.
So that might be a cylinder that'll detonate and fail on you, while some of the other ones are so fat they would never detonate.
This is lean, and this down here is rich, and the scale here is almost 17 to 1 down to 11.1 to 1. So that's a big swing when you look at cylinder to cylinder. So we're going direct to nitrous. This is like a cute little nitrous system. It is an NOS power shot. It's a fixed 125 horsepower plate system. It's about the smallest that, you can get outside of a Sneaky Pete. Yeah. But we'll see what it does. Hopefully it'll blow this thing to like, almost 600 horsepower. Here's our arrangement for reading the air-fuel ratio in each individual cylinder. We took this old set of headers that Dulcich bought in like the 80s and then left in his backyard and wrecked them by drilling to put O2 bungs in every single hole and then booger welding them with no gas whatsoever. I put every one of them 13 inches from the port. You got to put them between 12 and 18 inches down. And the longest distance I was able to get was on this hole, which was 13 inches on center. And so that's what I did on all of them. And so we should be able to read accurately what's going on in each cylinder. Okay, we're ready for our nitrous testing now. This is a small nitrous hit, 125 shot, but nonetheless, we want to keep it really scientific between this and the other manifold. And so we're monitoring the nitrous bottle pressure out there at 92 degrees to make sure, bottle temperature, which affects pressure, at 92 degrees to make sure that it's the same for both runs. And we also have to get the engine temperature correct, so it's a little bit of a balancing act right now.
Okay, we should be pretty good right now.
Doesn't seem like we're getting nitrous
now. Okay, we gotta go mess with that. Looks like it's only flowing fuel. Well, my nitrous system had been sitting around for like 2 or 3 years and the solenoid was stuck. And so Steve had one of NOS's new sniper kits on hand. So we have that sniper kit now jetted at 56 on the nitrous, 47 on the fuel.
It'd be close to 125,
Yeah.
130 maybe.
Neighborhood of.
Yeah, so I think we're ready to go.
Okay,
Can't
whack
wait.
it. So not bad, yeah. Did what expected, made 577.9 horsepower at 5,600 RPM. And the torque, yeah, it made 638 pound-feet. Usually peak torque happens right when you hit the button. So it picked up 100 horsepower, basically, 110.
Yeah, so I could, we could go up on the jet or just, but
Yeah, it's pretty
I think the reason we're here is to see what happens.
But let's talk about that. If you're flowing more nitrous through the intake manifold and more fuel, is it more of a demand on the dual plane? Like, might we see a bigger problem with the distribution on the dual plane with a bigger nitrous hit?
I suppose at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't think the guy that's running a dual plane is the same guy that's hitting it with a 350 shot.
Right, no, but I was
Right.
thinking like a 175 shot might be.
It didn't appear to me like it affected distribution all that
And I
much.
think, as I kind of suspected,
So the red lines are naturally aspirated, black lines are nitrous, and it's really got the same problems. But so would this make the argument that yes, you would have a problem running nitrous because it has distribution problems? Because we're still looking at 16
no, but that's a spike. The bigger the kit, even on a single plane, you will for maybe a tenth or two, you will see a spike.
Because the nitrous
Sometimes
hits
in
before
all
the
of
fuel?
them. Yeah, and so you're always going to see, you can see it in every air-fuel ratio, you'll see some sort of spike. The trick is how long will it be there? Some of the nitrous tuners actually will increase fuel pressure to 12 or 15, and then jet appropriately, jet down with more pressure to try and compensate for some of that.
Yeah, so then fuel gets there quicker, catches up with the
sure.
nitrous a little bit quicker. But you're right, because you can see that it gets richer right afterwards, and then the flow is much tighter, but we're still looking at 13 to 1 on nitrous on some cylinders, and almost 10 to 1 on this one. So arguably, the nitrous did tighten up the air-fuel ratios.
Slightly.
A little
It
bit.
wasn't what you would really hope for, but look, at least it shows that it's not a horrible thing and you can't do it or you've got these big problems.
Yeah, especially at this power level. It's just not that big of a deal.
Well, alrighty then.
So do you want to go try and put more nitrous in it?
Yeah, let's pick it up just a little bit, just to be sure, because I think we'll have that objection from the fans watching that it's just too girly. With this sniper kit, we're actually able to change jets and make more power. So we're gonna go to a combination with a number 65 fuel jet, and you have a 73 on the nitrous
73
side.
nitrous.
So that's neighborhood of a 1/5 shot. Now we got the jets in it for more horsepower. We've also put some race gas in it so it won't detonate, and we pulled another 3 degrees of ignition timing out just to be safe. But nevertheless, Dulcich has gone from being like depressed at the pathetic power to super anxious that we're gonna blow it up.
I was going to say we will blow it up.
So now we're making 644.6 pound-feet of torque, and at the very same RPM, we're making 613.7 horsepower.
A lot safer now, isn't it?
It is a lot safer. The spread from the richest cylinder to the leanest cylinder is nowhere near what it was before.
Really?
Nowhere near.
Let's take a look at where we are here.
Yeah, look at this.
To where we were with the smaller system.
The nitrous improved it considerably.
Yep.
It actually brought it closer together with more nitrous.
Yeah.
You know, actually running the
That's
bigger
what we learned so far.
The bigger nitrous unit was a better test.
The bigger
say.
nitrous unit, I think it was a good test both ways, because we now know that the more nitrous you put through a dual plane, the more the AFR cylinder to cylinder gets closer, I'm sure up to a point.
You know, that whole distribution thing with a normal thing, and I mean, you could probably get away with 250.
Yeah.
Realistically, and not cause any issues. You know, I mean, it just takes more testing to find out where that threshold is. But I mean, I think that kind of proves the point that there's, it's not like this horrible distribution problem. It can't be done. You hear that all the time. I know you guys do.
Oh yeah, totally. Whereas now our leanest cylinder is basically 12 to 1.
Yeah.
The nitrous system is a little bit too rich. But yeah, I think we just debunked that myth. You can run at least a, 150 shot or more? Okay, well now what I want to do is put on the single plane intake manifold, see if the distribution problem still exists, and find out if the gain with the same nitrous jet is greater on the single plane than it is on the dual plane. I feel good about that test.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love debunking myths, but I'm ready to put on the single plane.
Me too.
We're about to change manifolds, but I thought first I would go over a few things because I noticed on social media, especially when I post pictures, a lot of people ask about these brawler carburetors. And so just a little quick bit of information about them. They're a new low buck line of carburetors from Holley and QFT. And people ask me, are they pretty good? And I'm gonna say yes. I've run 850 double pumpers twice now, and I've had a 750 double pumper, and these things are packed with features and have always run really good for me. So do I recommend them? Yeah, they're actually really good. Okay, you saw a little bit of a nitrous debacle when we first started trying to do our test with this old power shot system that I had I think I bought from a swap meet someplace. I've had it forever, but it's been sitting for at least a year, probably more, and the nitrous solenoid was stuck. That often happens if these things sit around. You can rebuild these things, but obviously we did not bother with that at this point. Instead, here's what we installed, which is also from Holley and NOS. It's a product called Sniper. It's a low buck adjustable nitrous plate system. And I was just noticing that the plate here has a whole lot more holes in it than that old power shot setup that only had 4 holes for nitrous and 4 for fuel. So I think this is actually a better buy, and we're gonna jet the thing up to make 150-ish horsepower. Okay, now, manifolds. Here is that dual plane that we just ran. And you can look in there and kind of see why people think that these things don't run well on nitrous or potentially don't. They have 2 separate levels inside them. Each half goes to 4 cylinders in the engine. These things tend to make more torque and less top end horsepower, whereas what we're about to go to is the Victor single plane intake manifold. This is a nice big hairy manifold, especially when ported. I think on our 383, it's really not the manifold that I would choose for running down either the street or the drag strip, but it is going to answer those questions about fuel distribution issues and whether nitrous makes more power on this style of manifold. So we're going to go install this pooch right now. Just pull this guy aside. The cool thing about the big block Mopar is that it doesn't have water in the intake manifold, so we're going to be able to just pull off this one and slap a new one on there like nothing.
Oh man, this manifold's hot. That is no good. How come I have so much manifold heat?
Kaboom.
Right on the side of my box.
Now we're gonna have to go fire this thing up, and almost certainly it's gonna need to jet change because of the single plane versus dual plane intake. And we'll run it NA and then come back and spray it again.
I have to make the observation here that the engine looks much more racy.
Yeah, too bad it won't run that much more racy.
I know, it is the downside.
Now the single plane manifold's in place and all tuned up, and we also bumped the ignition timing back to where it was when we ran the dual plane naturally aspirated. So what you're about to get is a clean A/B test of the dual plane manifold versus the single plane manifold. Most horsepower we've seen so far naturally aspirated at the cost of torque, which is completely predictable considering what we're doing.
Surprise.
There you go. The red is the dual plane, black is the single plane. The dual plane makes more torque, and you get a little bit more horsepower out of the single plane. Actually, Steve ran it higher too.
Yeah, it wasn't done where this dual plane was, so I went ahead and ran it 300 higher just so we could get to peak again.
Our new power peaks with the single plane intake manifold are 473.1 horsepower and 454.2 pound-feet of torque. You can see really looking at the graph, it tells a better story than just the peaks though. You know, you're giving up a lot of power below 46,700 RPM. But what we're really doing here is looking at distribution issues and nitrous. So let's have a look at what the cylinder to cylinder looked like with the single plane.
It's better, but it's not fantastic.
But will it make more power on nitrous?
Ooh, how do you find that out?
Let's go squirt this thing.
Yeah.
I'm tired of messing around with 470 horsepower. It's boring me. The last test, theoretically the good one. Single plane intake manifold, 150 shot. We pulled the timing back and whack it. The only thing I'm curious about here is, does it make more power? And I think it might, because the airflow seems to continue at a higher RPM than the dual plane. Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, but I wonder if there was a differential there to start with, but I think it's still made more base.
Well, our power peaks are now 692 pound-feet of torque and 645.9 horsepower. So it did make more power than the dual plane, but let's analyze. Final answer on nitrous oxide on dual planes versus single planes. So peak to peak, the single plane made a whole lot more power. Single plane made 692 pound-feet of torque and 645.9 horsepower. The dual plane was 644.6 and 613.7. So the single plane made 32.2 more horsepower and 47.4 more pound-feet, right at the hit. But I'm not sure that I'm gonna call that an accurate data point.
You know, the other thing is too, is that the single plane actually made 10 horsepower more NA.
At that RPM.
Yeah, right in here as well. So, you know,
gain.
peak to peak. So the gain, or the difference between the two maybe isn't 30, maybe it's more like 20.
Okay, but why? in the real world, that's what it did.
No, that's the numbers are the numbers, but this is mimicking just what it did with the dual plane versus single plane.
It's coming off a higher base, basically.
Right. We just gave the peak-to-peak numbers, but the peaks are right when you hit the button, and I'm not sure that that is a good data point for comparison.
It's not.
Because that's where, like, just how much nitrous is in the line, whether it's purged or not, can make a really big difference. And so we also looked at the difference in power all the way up at 5,500 RPM, and here's what we got. At 5,500 RPM, after everything had sort of settled down, but before it was really close to the end of the run, the dual plane made 159.5 horsepower, and the single plane made 181.8, so that's 22 more horsepower up at 5,500 RPM. So I think the answer is yes. The single plane, because it flows more air, makes more power on nitrous the same way it does NA.
Well, and admittedly, both of these systems could be tuned up a little bit more, but I think we're still going to see the same difference up high because they both, we can tune them both up to be better, but I think it's still going to have a difference in sway in the favor of the single plane.
Yeah, but that's a little bit of a surprise to me that that's happening down here at 5,200. I expected it to make more power way up at the top when it starts to saturate the dual plane manifold,
Yeah.
but it made it everywhere.
But conventional wisdom would indicate that the single plane's better on nitrous. That's what people believe, and
it's true.
And it's true. So
Well, it's got more volume in the intake manifold, and there's more junk going through it with the nitrous. Nitrous carries air with it, but it's still displacing air.
what about cylinder-to-cylinder distribution
Ooh,
on
good
nitrous?
one. Let's go look at that. Now what we're looking at is cylinder-cylinder distribution on the dual plane versus the single plane, black being the dual plane, red being the single plane, and obviously all of this is naturally aspirated and all of this is after we hit the button, and we really expected the single plane to be tighter, but it's not really. I mean, there's one outstanding cylinder on the dual plane that's not that good. The rest of it is actually a little tighter than the single plane.
Comes down to the design of a particular manifold, because this shows us what a single plane Victor or Super Victor on a 383 Mopar will do as far as cylinder-to-cylinder distribution on nitrous.
But you're saying it's that narrow.
I really do think so. I really do.
What it really shows us, though, I think that's kind of encouraging, is you don't have to be afraid to run a 150 or 175 shot on a dual plane.
And that was my point when I conceived this whole episode, because I'd be comfortable with anything up to like a 250 shot on a dual plane, honestly.
That's what the trend pretty much looks like. It actually got, when we had run the littler jet, it actually tightened up a little bit with the bigger jet than the smaller one.
Right.
So if that kind of trend holds true, I'm sure it goes away at some point.
It gets better and better.
But, a couple hundred shot, most guys who are going to do a 250 or 300 shot or something probably aren't going to be running a dual plane on the engine anyway. So if you need a little extra fun, there it is.
Here's something that the late Monty Smith from NOS told me all the time, which was the air-fuel ratio that makes the most power naturally aspirated is the AFR that makes the most power on nitrous. And so that's why I think that people don't realize they're driving around with their cylinder-to-cylinder distribution all over the map to begin with.
Yeah. It's
not a scary thing. It just is what it is. It's happened for decades, and the same is true on nitrous. So just do it. That's my answer.
I think it's a great answer.
Okay, I'm sold. Let's put nitrous on my ride.
Put nitrous on everything.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I learned something and I proved my point. That's a perfect episode.
Always makes you right, and you're always happy with that.
Right. All right, Steve, let me conclude.
All right, lay it on me, brother.
The questions I had at the beginning of the show, I think the answers are, I'm not afraid of nitrous on a dual plane.
Okay.
And a single plane does make more power.
Right.
And I think the cylinder-to-cylinder distribution is bad with any carbureted intake manifold. It just is what it is. Nobody cares.
Well, just the facts, man.
And last of all, the crop duster motor's kind of a turd.
It's like that child who's underperforming. You love it anyway, but I think maybe some remedial action might be called for here.
I think you're right. I mean, this thing used to make 500 horsepower, but that was before we ran it with these really terrible headers. I think these collectors and everything are nowhere near as good as the TTIs we had on it before. And we had an electric water pump and a different carburetor and stuff. But nonetheless, those are excuses, and I think that we need to raise the power level on this thing, and not necessarily with nitrous.
We probably can. I was proud of the nitrous numbers, though. This thing held together with pretty good amounts of nitrous.
Yeah, it did. For stock cranking rods, it wasn't bad at all. So. I think our plan now is finish painting the crop duster and then hop this thing up a little bit, and maybe, just maybe if we do, you'll see it on a future episode of Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL. check this out. 598 cubic inches. We've got low buck versus high buck. We got screaming horsepower versus brute torque. It's all on this episode of Engine Masters. This is Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL, and this is another one of those episodes where I am personally completely stoked because this is gonna be cool. I've got a 598 cubic inch short block, and we're gonna show you two completely different combinations on it. One of which is like low buck and super low end torquey, and the other one which is high buck and has horsepower that you will not believe for an engine with a 10-to-1 compression ratio. All right, let's give you the big picture here. This is a big block Chevrolet. They came out in 1965. They're still super popular for drag racing, great for trucks. You see them in a lot of Chevelles and Novas and things like that. But the days of having a 454 big block and thinking you're cool are kind of waning. Let's be honest, it's over. Because everybody's got a 496 or a 540 or a 555. Not everybody has a 598. Now, what makes this thing cool is that it is a short block that you can buy out of the box with a warranty from Blueprint Engines. It's a new product. I talked them into making. They had this 598, 725 horsepower crate engine, but by selling just the short block, it means that you can use the cylinder head package that you want to do and make it cheap or high end, like you'll see in this episode. What makes the 598 great is that it is a low deck block. It's a stock production block deck height. It's 9.8 inches. Often if you're shopping for huge cubic inches in a big block Chevy, like a 572 or a 632, it's a tall deck, 10.2 inches. The problem with that is you can't use the parts off of your existing big block. You need to buy a different intake manifold. They often take different headers. It doesn't fit in the car as good. You're not gonna fit a brake booster, stuff like that. Whereas this one will take all your stock components. Here's what I've done. The camshaft is a super cheap hydraulic flat tappet. It's a Comp Cams XE274. The cylinder heads are a regular production Chevrolet iron rectangle port. They came off a Gen 5 crate motor. There's nothing special about them. Go to the swap meet, you're a chump if you pay more than $500 or $800 for them. The intake manifold is a used Edelbrock Performer RPM dual plane, and up top, I also went to the bottom of the budget pile. The Brawler line of carburetors is a new thing from Holley Performance, and they're Chinese parts. They're assembled and tested in the United States. They're just like a Holley configuration. This thing at Summit is $415, which is like half the price of the carburetors we normally use. This one's an 850 double pumper, and we've been pretty happy with it. So that just makes a really low buck way to put together a pretty impressive engine. The problem is it's strangling airflow and it's not gonna make killer horsepower, but I think it's gonna be incredibly impressive on the torque curve. So now we gotta go hang the thing on the dyno, lube it up with some AMSOIL, and find out if I completely fumbled this or if I am a hero with this low buck combo. What do you think? We'll find out right now. In this episode, we're gonna build this engine into two radically different combos. And one of my points is to show you that you can buy a short block like this and do all kinds of different things with it, but that doesn't mean you're gonna use the same oil. And this time I've got a three-way cocktail of AMSOIL to tell you about. First of all, our base combination has a flat tappet camshaft in it, so you have to break it in with break-in oil, and that's what this AMSOIL product is right here. We've actually already done that, but I wanted to make sure that you did not forget that that is a critical step. Now, in the first combination here, this thing is gonna be running at pretty low RPM. It's gonna be like a typical hot rod engine that you would just use on weekends and things. And for that, I'm gonna use the Z-Rod 1030. The important thing being, this is a high zinc oil. Once again, that is critical for the flat tappet camshaft. Now, when we go into the next combination with this engine, it's gonna be running much more extreme RPM. It's gonna be making a lot more horsepower. And at that point, it's more of a race engine, and I'm gonna move to the Dominator racing oil, but in the same 1030 rating. Right now, we're gonna sauce it up with that Z-Rod before we go to the very first dyno test and prove to these guys that this is actually a good idea. Have you ever run anything like this?
No.
Not on purpose.
No, never on purpose.
Never on purpose.
Actually, never accidentally either. I mean,
Well, you see it all the time with small blocks with stock heads and a little cam or something, but it's the 598 cubes that makes this weird and good.
yeah, puts it completely out of that range of normalcy.
What's your opinion?
I'm gonna wait and see, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably the smart thing to do.
I'm going to reserve
See,
commentary until I see it.
What that really means is, I don't know.
Yes.
You look like you really like it, Brule.
Watch this. Run it. What do you think?
What did it make peak? I didn't look at the horsepower number.
Roughly 715 pound-feet and 540 horsepower.
Wow.
Look at this. It's making peak horsepower at 4,700 RPM.
Wow.
That's way, way below what you would expect. So we're looking at a torque peak of 714.3 pound-feet at 3,500 and 545 horsepower at 4,700. Now, 545 horsepower is pathetic for a 598 cubic inch engine, right?
Well, it's not even 1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Exactly. It's completely, it sucks. But look at this. It makes virtually 700 pound-feet, 688 pound-feet at 2,500 RPM.
That's what makes it a diesel.
Right.
Yeah.
And then look, it's flat. It makes more than 700 all the way to 4,000 essentially. I also think if a guy already has a 454 in his Chevelle and he's running around with a turbo 400 and like a stock 308 rear gear, all he needs is this short block, throw it into his existing parts, and it will be really fast without having to spend extra money on overdrive, because this kind of torque can pull a highway rear gear and still be really fast. And when it starts smoking the tires, it will never stop.
No.
Ever. It'll just keep going.
What's kind of cool about this illustration is it just shows you how low you can go. And you can just keep moving everything up if you want by just kind of changing camshaft up to a point with this cylinder head. There's a lot of room to move the engine speed up.
You think so?
Change things. I think with this head, you could still move it up some. It's never going to be a 7,000 RPM motor with this many cubic inches in this head, but maybe you could get it to 5,500 for peak power or something. I mean, I still think it would move everything up if it had like a 248 at 50 camshaft.
If you did that, would it make significantly more than 545 horsepower, or is 550-ish the limit of an 850 and this intake and those cylinder heads?
Yeah, cylinder head, we'd have to look at the flow number on those heads, but it may be getting close.
If you move the peaks up, you'll move the horsepower up too.
But not necessarily.
It can shorten the difference between peak
Right.
torque and peak power, because once that head's saturated, I mean, if that head flows 320 or 330, how much power can it make? I mean, theoretically,
it's that
it says
good.
it makes 660 or something, but I think this head, if I remember right, it flows about a CFM per cc, so I'm thinking it's around 310-ish.
Okay.
That's not too bad, actually. So you should make over 600 horsepower cam to take maximum advantage of the flow.
So it could, but then it would start to give up this torque curve, and it's not going to idle at 800 RPM. It's not going to have 17 inches of vacuum.
It'll still make that torque potentially, but it's not going to have all that drivability and smooth idle and, you know, all that stuff way down low.
It is absolutely the argument in the example of a torque motor versus a horsepower motor, which is what I'm trying to do here. And I think when people say, oh, it's a torque motor, what they really mean is that it makes more torque than horsepower. And that's what this is to the extreme. What makes this strange is that the power peak is below 5,252 RPM, so therefore it makes way less horsepower than torque, because the formula for horsepower is torque times RPM divided by 5252. So horsepower takes into account engine speed and torque does not. Torque is a measurement of basically work, how strong you are. And this thing is really, really strong down here. There's no replacement for displacement, right?
I like it.
How about more airflow with displacement?
Well, that
We
did.
find that one
That's
out.
step 2.
Okay.
Ready to wrench?
Yeah.
I don't think the Steves were completely convinced about the coolness of my low buck engine package, probably because it peaked horsepower at 4,700 RPM, which is ridiculous, and partially because they know what's coming, which is this. A combination that is much more in line than the stuff we're used to dealing with to make big, high-end horsepower. So what we're gonna do here is swap the cam and the cylinder heads and the intake manifold and the carburetor. We're gonna use the same short block, same oil pan, but totally change the character of the engine. And we're gonna do it with Brodix cylinder heads, which I haven't used in a while, and I'm really looking forward to it because we've all been just drooling on this cylinder head as we look at it. This is a Brodix BP BB3 Plus O. Now the O means that it is an oval port. If you look at the shape of this port, it's not a perfect rectangle like a conventional big block Chevy rectangle port, but don't let that fool you, because those heads that we just tested, the iron ones, they're like 310 or 312 cc's volume on the inlet runner. These are 365. This head is advertised to flow 450 CFM at 800 valve lift. That's ludicrous for what this is. It has a 2.350 inch intake valve. And the CNC port work on this thing looks amazing. It'll take 800 thousandths lift from the factory. Now, what makes this so cool though, is that it uses a conventional valve train. Many times when you're shopping for big end trick big block Chevy heads, or for any race engine, they require a dedicated shaft rocker system. This one does not. As a matter of fact, we're gonna use the same Crane Gold rockers that we use on the other combination. So that's cool. What's also neat is that Brodix sells an intake manifold that is made exactly for these inlet ports. You can see they've got the same shape to them, and they also port matched them. So this is like a sweet combination of a giant single plane manifold, custom designed for this intake. Up top, this carburetor is a Holley Dominator in 1250 CFM. I figured we were gonna need a lot of airflow to feed this 598 cubic inch engine. Now lastly, we changed the camshaft. What we had in it before was a hydraulic flat tappet, and now of course, we've got the solid mechanical roller camshaft. It is from Crane. It's a custom grind cam specified by Steve Brule, and so you can't just get a catalog part number for it. You have to order it special. If you want to duplicate our combo, this is an R-274/4334-2S-10. Now that 10 means it's on a 110 degree lobe separation angle. The duration at 50 thousandths tap at lift on this thing is 274, 284, and the lift is in the neighborhood of 0.730 inches. So it is a pretty big, healthy Crane solid roller camshaft in this thing. So now you know exactly what our engine combination is here. You can duplicate it yourself. The question is, do you want to? Well, we'll find out when we look at the horsepower numbers, and I gotta tell you, we have one Achilles heel. That is the compression ratio. The pistons in that blueprint short block are gonna give us 10.0 to 1. Honestly, we've all talked about it. We'd like to see 11.5 to 1 with this deal to run on pump gas, but I think it's still gonna be really strong. We won't know until we go in the cell, bolt all this stuff to the 598, and make a pull in anger and cross our fingers for 800 plus horsepower. Steve's setting the initial lash on the valves. I'm gonna test fit the intake. This thing is gonna be sweet. And it fits perfectly. But we wanna run a vacuum pump on this thing instead of running a bead of silicone. We're gonna have to figure out some cork. What Steve's working on right now is what's called a stud girdle. So it uses a really long poly lock, which is the thing that holds the rocker arm down. And it is a clamp that goes around each one of those poly locks to stabilize all of these rocker studs so that they're not wobbling around with the high spring pressure and big lift and potentially RPM of a solid roller cam. This thing doesn't really have an RPM problem, fortunately, but this is still gonna add valve train stability since we don't have a trick like shaft mounted rocker. It's a regular old stud rocker. This is the same rocker we took off that other engine on the stock heads. Does yours go right?
How big is your Dominator?
1250.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Why'd you put the small one on? They make a 1420.
I asked you, you wanted this one.
Yeah.
Well, the old one was the Freiburger combo. This is the Brulio combo.
I like the Brulio combo way better.
Probably. So
Yeah.
we got the whole Brodix setup dialed. Steve Brule is now going to tune this thing up while we go hide in the corner, and then we'll come back and find out how much power this thing makes. All right, I think you guys are about to be a lot happier with this engine.
It's a little more what I'm normally doing.
I know.
I suspect I'll like it a lot better too.
This thing's going to be stout. Watch this.
You're the odd man out, Freiburger.
I know. That's more stout than I expected by quite a bit. I didn't think 10-to-1 compression ratio would get us there. So essentially we just bolted on 300 horsepower.
That would be a cover blurb.
Yeah, I know. Not even essentially, we did just bolt on 300 horsepower.
Almost exact, actually a little better than 3.
So this thing just made 774.9 pound-feet of torque, and up top, 853 horsepower at 6,300 RPM. Now, what blows my mind actually is how much more torque it made than the small combo. It just bumped it up. But look how flat it is. What's it making down here at 4,500?
About 774.
Yeah, 762.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will look at that, I think, who are not familiar with these types of things and go, oh, well, this made more torque, so this is more the torque engine. But the whole key is the RPM range at which it happens.
Even down at 3,600, it still made 673, so it is a beast.
So that's the overlay of the iron heads versus the Brodix top end combo. These red lines down here are what we did with the tiny camshaft and stock heads. And look at that. That is what's going on. But this is a real visual that tells you that even though this is making way more torque, I think when people think of a torque motor, they're thinking of torque that is easily drivable at low RPM at throttle
Torque
position.
at lower engine speeds, not
Right.
At max output of torque.
I know you guys think I was cracked walking into this test, but what my goals were for it were first to find out what happens if you basically put 454 parts on a 598, and second to talk about the difference in a torque motor and a horsepower motor, and it backfired on me a little bit that the horsepower motor also made more torque. But what are your takeaways from this? I mean, there's more engine dynamics going on here than we've really talked about. What has it made you think about?
Well, like you were saying, I do a lot of this stuff, the high horsepower stuff. The low horsepower thing makes me start thinking about all of those things, intake manifold. I mean, it almost makes me want to go put the other combination back on and order 6 camshafts and 6 intake manifolds and a couple of cylinder heads just to try and really get that up and kind of take that other viewpoint of everything.
Yep. How about you?
It tells me that the torque motor thing is just bogus. Guys will talk about, oh, it's a torque motor when they don't make any horsepower, but torque is horsepower and RPM. Like you'll see guys with a 6-cylinder saying, oh, well, it makes a ton of torque, but it really doesn't.
The inline 6 is better than the V8 for torque.
Yeah.
It's not.
Which one makes more torque? I mean, our high horsepower engine makes more torque because it takes a lot of torque and RPM to make that kind of really good horsepower, so.
Yeah.
I think the one really obvious thing is cubic inches make more torque.
Well, there is no replacement for displacement.
Exactly.
And oftentimes when we say something like that online, people go, yes, there is turbo. Well, what happens when you put a turbo on this?
Yeah.
Put 15 pounds on this and there's 1,400 pound-feet of torque.
But let's talk about the diminishing returns of displacement also. In other words, friction. The piston speed in this thing is ridiculous because of that 4.5-inch stroke.
It starts to take its toll, particularly in higher engine speeds. I've seen combinations of 632s where 615 with a little shorter stroke actually made more horsepower and less torque because of the friction losses in the longer stroke. So gas mileage, that's another one.
Yeah.
Tow rig thing. I mean, it's just not gonna make the mileage a diesel does.
And it tells you that you are obligated to spend a lot of money on cylinder heads if you really want to be somebody, as this is evidenced. I mean, that's iron head versus pretty high-end trick stock valve arrangement big block head.
Yeah, that's a standard 24-degree head, bolts on
Yeah.
like most stuff, but boy, is that a really nice cylinder head and intake combo.
Sure. But to conclude the whole thing, I guess my takeaways are one short block can really do it all. People think that you gotta be really specialized to make kind of 800 horsepower. The same short block does that. And yeah, I guess if you're making the lower end power, you could save a lot of money with a cast crank, high protected pistons, all that other kind of stuff. This has all got forged good parts in it, but there's nothing inherently different about the short block between low horsepower and high, you know, when you're dealing with a 598. And just to lock down this point, we're actually running this thing on Rocket brand 91 octane fuel. Made 850 horsepower and 775 pound-feet on Rocket brand with an engine that I would argue anybody can slap together, because you buy that short block from Blueprint, you get that top end from Brodix, and it runs.
It's all there. It's available to bolt on.
Well, it's a weird episode, but it's still one of my favorites because I still dig this little motor.
I like the
Yeah, it's a
598.
big block. Yeah, the 598 is just all win. There's no downside. So Steve, how do you like my iron head combo?
Man, I don't want you to take this as criticism, because I really mean it, but I mean for a dump truck or a garbage truck or something like that, it's really, really good. All that torque.
I know it's a little hard to actually stand up for it sitting in front of this 850 horsepower at 10-to-1 compression.
This is brilliant. I really like this combo a lot.
I know it. I'm thinking these heads are really good.
I know, the whole thing is, it worked together really well. The single plane didn't kill bottom end torque. And as a matter of
How
fact,
can it? It's 598 cubic inches.
which brings me to the next thing. I mean, let's talk about torque, because that's always a topic people talk about. Oh, my engine makes a lot of torque, usually when it's a dud on horsepower.
Well, and that's actually what I wanted to get into when we even did this episode, is the whole horsepower versus torque conversation. And I think it's, again, people don't understand what you just said. A torque motor is an engine that makes more torque than horsepower, like my iron head combo.
Right.
But you can make more torque with a killer race motor like this. It's just at higher RPM where you don't want to deal with driving it every day.
Yeah, horsepower is torque and RPM, so.
Well, torque is horsepower.
Yeah.
Times RPM divided by 5252.
Oh, thanks for educating me.
Okay, so Brule wants to turn this into 900 horsepower on pump gas.
That's practically there.
I know it.
A little more compression, a little more cam, and you've got 900. Maybe
I think he can do it.
Carb spacer.
And if we do, what do you think's gonna happen?
You'll see it on a future episode of Engine Masters.
Not bad, Dulcich.
Yeah,
You
really?
forgot one thing.
What?
Presented by AMSOIL. See?
Oh, yeah.
Gotta
That's
go-
why you're a pro. I'm the sidekick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I pay the bills. The engine, like, character, the fact that it idles really slowly with a lot of vacuum, it's super smooth, it's just totally drivable.
That's like the not so pretty girl that you can live with, right?
What's so not so pretty about it? I like it.
You know, I mean, yeah, she's got all that friendly torque and all that, and easy to live with, but just not that exciting.
He was a cowboy with dust on his boots, dreams in his heart, and a song to soothe. She was the beauty from the other side, the kind of girl who could never hide. They said it wouldn't work, their worlds too far apart, but love doesn't listen to a doubtful heart. Through whispers and stares, they held on tight. Two souls united under the moonlight. They rode through storms, they faced the rain. Through every trial, through every pain. Love was the fire that kept them warm through the darkest nights and the fiercest storms. Now the cowboy and his girl stand proud. Together they sing, their hearts unbowed. Society tried to tear them apart, but nothing could break what's in the heart. They proved the world that love is free. A cowboy and his girl were meant to be. They rode through storms, they faced the rain. Through every trial, through every pain, love was the fire that kept them warm. Through the darkest nights and the fiercest storms. Now the cowboy and his girl stand proud. Together they sing, their hearts unbowed. Under the western sky, they call it home. A cowboy and his girl, never alone. Through every challenge, through every fight, they found their forever in love's sweet light. There's the autumn wind calls out your name. Leaves are falling, but it's not the same. Golden streets, but they feel so cold. Without your hand, without your hold. The sweater I wear still smells like you. A faded touch, a love once true. I trace our footsteps in the rain, but time won't bring you back again. And every leaf that hits the ground is just another memory falling down. The echoes of your voice still call like whispers through the crimson halls. The seasons change, the days move on, but in my heart you're never gone. You're the autumn that still lingers in the chill of my November. The moonlight shines on empty streets where we once danced in golden leaves. I close my eyes, I see you there. The wind still plays with your auburn hair. We swore that love would never fade, but autumn came and took its place. Now I just watch as time rolls by, tracing ghosts in an amber sky. And every leaf that hits the ground is just another memory falling down. The echoes of your voice still call like whispers through the crimson halls. The seasons change, the days move on, but in my heart you're never gone. You're the autumn that still lingers in the chill of my November. If I could turn the hands of time, I'd hold you close, I'd make you mine. But autumn teaches what we lose is just another path we choose. So let the rain erase your name, let the winds take all the blame. But no matter where life may send, you'll be my autumn in the end. bags and left that town. The city lights, they pulled me down, but every night I still hear that sound of the crickets singing all around. My heart's been longing for the sky so wide, and that old dirt road where the memories hide. It's been a long time since I've seen that view, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm still me or you. Take me back to the old dirt road where the wildflowers grow and the rivers flow, where the stars at night still shine so bright and the air so sweet it feels just right. Take me back to where I'm free, back to the place that feels like me. I've been running, now I'm coming home. Take me back to the old dirt road. The city's cold and the nights are long. I've been away, but something's wrong. I miss the smell of the rain on the pine and the way the fireflies would always shine. I know I've changed, but one thing's true, that old road's where my heart still grew. It's more than a path, it's my way back to everything I left behind but never lacked. Take me back to the old dirt road where the wildflowers grow and the rivers flow, where the stars at night still shine so bright and the air so sweet it feels just right. Take me back to where I'm free, back to the place that feels like me. I've been running, now I'm coming home. Take me back to the old dirt road. Now the roads are different and the lights are bright, but I know where my soul feels right. I'll trade all the gold for a life that's true. I'll always find my way back to you. Take me back to the old dirt road where the wildflowers grow and the rivers flow, where the stars at night still shine so bright and the air so sweet it feels just right. Take me back to where I'm free, back to the place that feels like me. I've been running, now I'm coming home. Take me back to the old dirt road. Take me back to the old dirt road where I'm finally home.
I've been chasing sunsets and down these dusty roads, heart weight heavy by the burdens that I hold. But when I see your shadow under that old oak tree, all my worries drift away. You're the anchor keeping me in the roar of thunder and the restless midnight breeze. Your gentle whisper guides me, puts my restless soul at ease. You're my safe harbor in your arms where the storm can't find me now. Calm waters in your heartbeat, I'll rest here anyhow. When the world is crashing in and the night gets cold and long, you're my peace, my melody, my country rock love song. Upon your lips, taste sweeter than the dawn. Every breath beside you feels like I finally come home. The roar of engines fades away when you're holding me so tight. In your light I find my courage and I'm ready for the fight. Even when the skies turn gray and the thunder shakes the ground, I know I'll be unbroken with your love to pull me around. You're my safe harbor in your arms where the storm can't find me now. Calm through the endless night. Let the wind howl through the pines. Let the lightning light the dark. As long as I'm here with you, I've got the map back to my heart. You're my safe harbor in your arms, where the storm can't find me now. Calm waters in your heartbeat, I'll rest here anyhow. When the world is crashing in and the night gets cold and long, you're my peace, my melody, my country rock love. You're my safe harbor in your arms, where the storm can't find me now. Calm waters in your heartbeat, I'll rest here anyhow. When the world is crashing in and the night gets cold and long, you're my peace, my melody, my country rock love song. Yeah, you're my safe harbor in your arms.
I used to roam like a rolling stone, chasing dreams always on my own. Never thought I'd find someone like you, but here you are and my world feels new. You laugh like a melody, soft and sweet. Turn my silence into poetry. Every sunset feels a little more bright since you walked into my life. So let's dance under the moonlight. Hold you close, never say goodbye, bye. No matter where this road may go, I'll love you more than you'll ever know. Through every storm, through every mile, you're my forever, my reason to smile. I see a house with a wraparound porch, little bare feet running on the floor. You in the kitchen singing off key, and that's all I'll ever need. So let's dance under the moonlight. Hold you close, never say goodbye, bye. No matter where this road may go, I'll love you more than you'll ever know. Through every storm, through every mile, you're my forever, my reason to smile. If the sky falls down, if the world turns cold, I'll still be here with your hand to hold. No time, no distance, nothing can break the love I give, the vow I'll make. So take my heart, it's yours to keep. Every promise, every dream. With you, my love, I found my chance to spend forever in a moonlight dance. There's a tree on the hill where the winds always blow, a mighty old oak that's been standing slow. Its branches reach high, but its roots run deep through the heart of this land where the memories sleep. I've watched it grow, I've watched it stand. Through the years it's seen this land. It's more than a tree, it's the heart of our home, a place where the ones we love are never alone. The old oak tree by the riverside, where the stories of our past still collide. It's the family's backbone, the foundation we need, standing strong through every storm and every sea. Through the years, through the pain, it still stands tall. That old oak tree has witnessed it all. From the day we were born to the day we'll leave, that old oak tree will always believe. It's seen the children running round its roots, heard the laughter of our first pair of boots. It's felt the joy and the sorrow we've known, and the love that's been passed down to the bone. As the years roll on, the tree's still here, a symbol of family, a place so dear. When the world feels lost and I'm far away, I know that old oak will call me home someday. The old oak tree by the riverside, where the stories of our past still collide. It's the family's backbone, the foundation we need, standing strong through every storm and every sea. Through the years, through the pain, it still stands tall. That old oak tree has witnessed it all. From the day we were born to the day we'll leave, that old oak tree will always believe. When life gets heavy and the road gets long, I'll find my way back to where I belong. Under its shade I'll rest my soul, 'cause the old oak tree has made me whole. The old oak tree by the riverside, where the stories of our past still collide. It's the family's backbone, the foundation we need, standing strong through every storm and every sea. Through the years, through the pain, it still stands tall. That old oak tree has witnessed it all. From the day
Woke up this morning with the sun in my eyes, took a deep breath and I realized it's a brand new day and I'm ready to go. Gonna find a little joy no matter what I know. The world's got its problems, but I'll be alright. I'll take the good with the bad, let the stars shine bright. Life's too short to waste a single day, so I'm gonna choose joy in every way. When the road gets tough and the sky turns gray, I won't let it steal my smile away. I'll find a reason, big or small, to keep on going, standing tall. I'm gonna choose joy every day, take the time to laugh and dance along the way. No matter what life throws my way, I'll find a little happiness come what may. Every day's a chance to be free, to find a reason to smile and just be me. So I'm gonna choose joy, come what may, and live my life the best I can today. my feet on solid ground. With every step I'm gonna find my way, choosing joy, come what may. When the road gets tough and the sky turns gray, I won't let it steal my smile away. I'll find a reason, big or small, to keep on going, standing tall. I'm gonna choose joy every day. Take the time to laugh and dance along the way. No matter what life throws my way, I'll find a little happiness, come what may. Every day's a chance to be free, to find a reason to smile and just be me. So I'm gonna choose joy, come what may, and live my life the best I can today. It's all about the choices that we make in every moment for our own sake. We can choose to rise or choose to fall, but I'm choosing joy, no matter what at all. I'm gonna choose joy every day. Take the time to laugh and dance along the way. No matter what life throws my way, I'll find a little happiness, come what may. Every day is a chance to be free, to find a reason to smile and just be me. So I'm gonna choose joy, come what may, and live my life the best I can today.
We met on a dusty road where the sun set low. You caught my eye with your gentle smile, and I knew I'd love you all the while. The breeze that whispered your name, I knew my heart would never be the same. Where the heart belongs, that's where I'll be, right by your side for all eternity. In your arms I found my home. With you, love, I'll never roam. Where the heart belongs, it's you and me. We've got a love that's soft and true, like a melody that feels brand new. Every moment with you feels so right. I could stay here in your arms tonight. The stars above are shining bright, but none of them compare to